Hello, everyone, and welcome to our second live stream. Very exciting stuff. My name is Diana Santos. I am the owner and lead instructor of Setwork University, and I am delighted to be able to host you all for this free live stream today. We are hosting this on our YouTube channel, as well as our Facebook group, as well as our Instagram page. And today's live stream, we're going to be talking about how we may be able to design some more creative searches, because sometimes we can be like, ugh, I don't know what to do. We run out of ideas. So I'm very delighted you're all able to join me today. This is supposed to be kind of a relaxed kind of conversation back and forth. I do have a little bit of a presentation for you, but I definitely want you guys to participate. Feel free to write in the comments. I can see those on my end. So I will be asking you guys some questions. If you guys would just be able to answer those, that would be wonderful. We want this to be a little bit more participatory if we could. But we're going to get diving in. So again, I just want to thank you all for joining us today. We are live streaming this in a couple different places. We are doing this on our Facebook page, as well as our Instagram page and our YouTube channel. Now, if you're not able to join us live, or if you want to be able to see it again later, don't worry. We are actually going to be posting a recording in all of these places, as well as the Friends of Setwork University Facebook group. So you'll be able to go through that as often as you like. And you can also ask questions and stuff like that there as well. Feel free to share. We would like for as many people as possible to see this. We think that it will be helpful. We are going to get rid of this one. So if we are able, so what we want to be talking about today is our ability to be able to find all kinds of good stuff as far as figuring out how to do these kinds of searches in a way that is indeed creative. So one of the main reasons why we want to do this is that we can just simply run out of ideas. It can be a really stressful thing to be able to continue to do Setwork training with our dogs once we've been doing it for a while. And it can be very easy for us to just be like, oh, I don't know what else to do. I've done everything possible. I found every flat space I could possibly put a hide. I don't know where else to put my hides. Oh, it's just boring, right? I have to set up another search. And the more that we kind of feel that way, that things are boring or that we just seem like we're in a rut, we can't think of anything else to do for our searches, this can happen to instructors too. If you have a class that you've had for a number of years, for a certain period of time, they just keep coming back because they love you so much. And you're like, ugh, I don't know what else to do for you. What can happen in those times is that we are then able to get into kind of a rut, and it can almost develop a aversion that we have to the actual searching, to the practicing. We may put it off more and more because it's just not as fun anymore. It's just not as exciting for us. So we definitely want to make certain that we are avoiding those kinds of things, that we are not running into these kinds of problems, because we don't want to have a situation where we're not playing the game with our dogs. That would be really sad, right? So what we're going to talk about today is some ways you may be able to get re-inspired and think about creative ways to do your searches. So there's a couple questions you want to ask yourself when you are doing this type of thing. The first thing is you want to think about, where exactly are you searching? Are you searching in a familiar location or in a novel location? Because that may change what it is that you're going to do. There's no point in throwing everything in the kitchen sink at our dogs or ourselves. If you are trying to do creative things, you can absolutely do that in a familiar place. That's completely fine. We don't have to go in the middle of Times Square in order to be creative. We can be creative right at home if we need to be. We also want to really think about, are we working on the skills for our dogs, for ourselves, or for the team? Because that matters too. So as an example, if I'm trying to work on something with my dog, then I'm probably going to try to figure out exactly what type of odor puzzles am I posing, where are their skill sets right now. I want to make certain that I'm still keeping the game really clear for them, that I'm not confusing them as far as what the game is all about, because I'm trying to get snazzy and creative. Right? We still have to remember that our dogs are guessing what this may all really be about. And we want to make certain that we're not throwing too many things at them, that we could potentially be confusing them as far as what the game is all about, accidentally as it were. But if we're working on us, that's another thing to keep in mind. Maybe we're trying to work on handling as an example, or the ability to multitask. Maybe we want to be able to see, can I actually walk and chew gum at the same time? Well, then we probably don't want to throw everything at our dog at the same time as well. So asking these questions can kind of avoid some issues that we may run into if we're throwing too much at our dogs at once. And perfect. We love that you'll be able to catch us later. Thank you so much for joining us so far. Really do appreciate it. And again, I know we're doing this on a weekend. People have lives. Don't worry about it. That's why we record it so you guys will be able to see it later. The other thing we want to think about is what kind of odor puzzle are we actually going to be offering? And you may be saying, I don't know what those are. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know. I'm just so burnt out. I wish that I could figure this out, but now you're throwing all these things and we have to ask all these questions. But the more that we can kind of just sit back and just think, what is it actually that I'm trying to work on? So as far as an odor puzzle, what type of hide did you want to set? Did you want to maybe work on elevation? Did you want to work on maybe a corner hide or a threshold hide? Maybe you want to work on different planes. Like, what's a plane? So there's actually 3 planes inside of your search areas. So if we were to cut your search area in horizontal little lines, little sections, then there'd be the plane on the ground, the plane that's at nose height for your dog, and a plane that's above head height for your dog. So even with just those couple of examples, there's lots of different types of hides that we may be able to play with that I'm hoping is starting to pique your interest as far as the types of searches you may be able to design. We then also want to think about the number of hides that we're using. Are we using one hide? Are we using multiple hides? And also want to think about the number of search areas. We don't have to just do one search area. We can do multiples. We could have lots of different search areas, right? And we maybe also be able to do that one search at a time, or maybe we want to do them back to back. So already there's lots of possibilities, lots of stuff that we may be able to do. And we also want to think about those factors. Like, what on earth are factors? All the different things that are going to be affecting the actual odor picture. So we've actually just recently released a podcast episode talking about the importance of better understanding odor. It is definitely a continuing education kind of thing. You will always be continuing learning and understanding odor because the only expert about odor is your dog. So you're always going to be continuing to figure these things out. But all the various types of things are going to be affecting what that odor picture looks like to your dog. Things like air temperature or humidity, barometric pressure, wind direction, all those kinds of things. And also what makes up the space. If you're in an exterior space, is there vegetation? Is there any standing water? Is there any kind of gravel or mulch? All these kinds of things make a difference as far as what the odor picture is going to look like. And you can play with all of those, manipulate your environment when you're designing your search area, so you can actually have really creative searches for both you and your dog. And it can give you so many different ideas as far as what you can do. And then you also want to think about your training goals. What is it that you actually want to achieve? Are you like, I just want to do scent work for enrichment? There is nothing wrong with that, and there should be no just in that statement. Doing scent work for enrichment is amazing. And you can also do scent work for enrichment and also scent work for trial prep or getting ready to compete at trials. Those don't have to be exclusive. They can be the same. So you want to think through, what are your goals? What is it that you're trying to work on? And how may you be able to design searches that can help you achieve those goals? This is not an exhaustive list of questions that you can ask. By asking these kinds of questions, it may spark off in you some ideas when you're actually designing your searches. So we're going to have a little exercise. So I'm going to need you guys to write in those comments for me. We're going to pretend that this is the space that we have available to us for our search. And we want to design a search. You're like, okay, it's a living room. Boring. Ugh, who cares? This is such not a creative search. This live stream is stupid. I hope you're not thinking that so far. I promise it will get interesting. So I just want you guys to take in, look at all the different things that make up this actual picture. This is just a stock photo I was able to find. Just really get your bearings a little bit, take a look around. And then I want you guys to answer, put in A, B, C, or D, where it is you think you would like to put hides. Did you want to put hides maybe under the lip of the couch? Maybe you wanted to put them underneath the coffee table. Maybe you wanted to put them underneath that cabinet looking thing over on the right hand side. You can tell I don't know the name of anything. Or maybe D, all the above. If you guys can write in the actual comments, what is it you want as far as where you would place hides? So you're going to place A, B, C, or D inside those comments, and then we'll see where you guys land, and then we'll talk about it. So yes, we want you to be participatory. I completely understand if there are lurkers, like, I don't want to. I am a lurker at heart, so I completely understand. And we got some answers. We got a bunch of D's, whole bunch of D's. Look at these D's, so many D's. Brilliant. Fantastic. We have a couple of C's. Okay, fantastic. Great job, guys. Love these answers. So let's take a look at what I'm thinking when I see this space. Look at all these different places we can put hides. So we're going to go through this bit by bit. At the very outset, what we can see is that there's so many different things that make up this actual space. We have obviously all of the furniture. We have the couch, we have this little ottoman thing, we have our coffee table, we have the cabinet looking thingamajigger. We have our little shelving. We can use all of these things to really present interesting odor pictures to the dog so that they'd be able to work these out in different ways. So we're going to work from right to left. So we're going to start off, we have this really high, elevated, inaccessible hide. It's inaccessible because our dogs can't fly. And they're probably not going to be able to get up to this little shelf up here. So we'd be able to work on this, right? Maybe we're not going to do this right out of the gate. Maybe we're going to work our way up. Maybe have hides put incrementally higher and higher along this wall until we can actually get here. So there you have multiple different searches that you'd be able to set up over a period of time just to get up to this point. Then you have an actual inaccessible hide inside the cabinet thingamajigger. If you were going to do this, again, we can have this be progressive, meaning that maybe we have what I'm assuming is a drawer kind of thingamajigger. We have that open so the dog can actually access their hide. And then we have that closed more and more across different types of search repetitions. So we're basically making this more inaccessible over time. We would definitely want to make certain that when we do have this as an inaccessible hide, that we have aged this for a certain period of time. Make certain that this is at least 15 to 20 minutes, maybe even longer. And you would also want to see what the construction is of this cabinet. Are there any openings also in the back? Because that may change what you actually accept when your dog has determined it's in there, right? We may, just as humans, say, well, they have to come from the front. Well, if there's a big old hole in the back of this cabinet thing, your dog is like, it's here, it's here. That counts too. Then our next hide is underneath the actual center of the cabinet thingamajigger. So it's another inaccessible hide. Unless your dog is really super teeny itty, they're not going to be able to get underneath here. So you may see some really great bracketing behavior as they're trying to figure out where exactly source is. So this can be a really great placement for them. Our next one is a suspended hide. So this little black line here, we're going to pretend that that is actually like a string or something similar. And we actually have our hide hanging from there. So for this, the perspective is a little off, but I'm going to pretend that this couch is pretty close to this lamp. So our dogs may actually experience a suspended hide type of odor puzzle, which is really challenging, but they may be able to access it by jumping up on the couch and then being able to get to their hide. That may be a really good way of introducing them to this concept. We then have a hide behind the throw. You're like, well, isn't that kind of the same thing as a hide underneath the lip of the couch? No, no, it is not, because fabric will do all kinds of weird things to our odor. Fabric will suck onto odor. So our dogs will have to figure out how to get underneath and behind that throw to actually get to their hide. This can actually be kind of challenging and can play with your dog's expectations. We then have a hide in between the actual couch cushions. So again, it's not underneath the lip, but it's actually in between those cushions there. And then lastly, we have a hide inside of the actual pillow. So again, you'd have to really know your dog. If your dog wants to destroy the pillow, then maybe don't do that. But I'm hoping that you can see that this is just some ideas as far as more creative kind of placements that's getting away from the more obvious things. Underneath the lip of the couch, underneath the coffee table, underneath the cabinet thingy. There's so many things we can do in here, and this is not exhaustive at all. And yes, absolutely, I love this. So I like to set a hide to take advantage of the window and thermals. Brilliant. We're actually going to be talking about how we may be able to do things that don't actually have anything to do with stuff or furniture that's inside the space, but actually working on what I call environmental hides. You get a gold star. So I hope this kind of thing makes sense in giving you guys some more ideas of the kinds of things you may want to pull upon when you're doing your searches. Additionally, we have containers, right? This space is great for containers. Maybe we'd be able to set up containers like these little toolboxes around the perimeter of the actual space. So here I'm doing a perimeter against the actual furniture and then also against the walls. So that's a possibility, right? So we can actually not just have a singular row, or it's not just as nice and clean as some of our container searches are, but it's not just random either. There is kind of a thought process to it. Also, you can see underneath the actual coffee table, I have that container underneath there. We can play with that too, where the dogs actually have to drive underneath something or behind something to get to their containers. How fun is that? There's all kinds of different ways you may be able to play with this, just using this boring little living room. But then it gets fun. So then we'd be able to do other things with our containers. Elevate our containers. Place them on top of the actual furniture. Have our dogs actually see these different types of odor pictures, these different types of presentations, where the containers are not just on the ground, where they can be elevated, and how that may change how they actually work out the space, particularly when we're placing our hides on different types of furniture as far as different types of materials, fabrics for our couch, and then things like our coffee table that's made of, I think, of glass and maybe some wood, maybe metal. And that's also going to do all kinds of fun things to our odor. So again, these kinds of things, a lot of people don't do this. They just keep their containers on the ground all the time. And I have to say, this is a really easy way of presenting a completely different picture for your container searches. And you can just do this with boxes, but then you can get creative just with the type of container. These little toolboxes, you can find them at Dollar Tree, really cheap. You'd be able to do all kinds of fun things, tote boxes and purses. There's all kinds of stuff you can use for containers, and just simply getting them off the ground and onto something at different heights can make a really big difference to your dog as far as how they actually sort these things out. So I hope you're already going like, I have some ideas. So now we want to look at this room, and I know you're like, what? So just take a moment, think about this space. What are some of the things we may be able to do when we want to set up a search in this area? Just take it all in for a moment. Try not to panic. Don't worry, don't stress. And then I want you guys to answer this question for me. Where is it that you would be placing hides, or how are you going to be dealing with this search area? Are you going to maybe treat it like a blank area because there's just nothing in there? Are you going to maybe bring objects in so you can actually build your search area around that? Or C, you're like, I have no idea. That's okay. You're allowed to say C. C is an absolutely fine answer to say. So if you would be able to write those answers for me, that would be fantastic. You guys are doing great. And this already, people are a little gun shy, like, oh, I don't know. I don't want to be wrong. There is no wrong answer here. We're just having fun. Ooh. Very nice. We have a bunch of A's, treat it like a blank area. We have an A and then a B, so blank area, and then afterwards bring in an object. I love the way that you're thinking about this. A and B at different times depending on goals. See, I love this kind of stuff. You guys are really being smart with this. Windowsills and door jambs, perfect. We're going outside the A, B, and C, but that's okay. Overachiever. That's okay. A and work on corners, fantastic. A and keep big room blank and hide in the closet. I would hide stuff there. Oh, you guys are so brilliant. I'm loving some of these answers. So we're going to move along to where the things I want you to really take in with this little picture here. All this stuff, and some of you are already noticing it. There are so many things here that we can play with. We have just the way that the actual space is constructed, right? We have all these lovely corners that we can play with, where potentially we could place hides there. But we could also potentially have odor collect here for odor information for our dogs. It may just do that on its own, or we may actually force it that way if we were to use floor fans as an example. We also have the difference with these lovely windows. We have sunlight and then we have shade. We can play with this because when things are in sunlight, the air is warmer. that means our air is going to rise and then it's going to expand. And the air that's not in the sun is going to be cooler. So it's going to be falling and contracting. That's going to cause movement. So even if you felt that there was no airflow in here at all, felt very still, I can guarantee you it's not. You're going to have these little swirly things in these areas where there's sun and shade. Then you also have just what actually makes up the space, right? Our flooring is carpet. Carpet is going to act completely differently than if we had this in a laminate floor or hardwood floor or tile floor, right? Our odor may get kind of stuck in some of this stuff. And that's actually a great thing for us to know. Maybe we can actually create a pooling odor puzzle for our dog to work through, even though the hide is somewhere else. And our walls are smooth, or this kind of like drywall stuff. So if our odor were to hit it, more likely not, it's going to kind of slide across it and do all kinds of fun things. So if we have different temperature outside than what we have inside, we can play with that too. What's that going to do? Moving up towards the top of the photo, we have those lovely vents. That means that we have HVAC possibilities. We can have that HVAC on or off. Maybe we want to do a couple of searches. One search we do with the HVAC off, the next we want to do it with the HVAC on and see what happens. We could also use those to really hang some of our hides, do some more suspended hides, right? Maybe have the HVAC off and just a lovely place to stick our string. So we're able to hang our actual hides from there. We have a ceiling fan that we can use in order to create some of that airflow and interesting stuff. We absolutely can hang our hides from there too. I wouldn't recommend hanging it with the fan on. I've had clients do that and it drives the dog nuts. I wouldn't personally recommend it, but it's something else you may want to think about. And then lastly, we have the closet. It's open. All in there is going to be pretty cool, more likely than not, depending on what's going on. If we have HVAC and other stuff, depending on the temperature that's outside, maybe it's actually a lot warmer in there. Who knows? But there's probably going to be a difference. We have that shelving in there, and we also have this little doorway that we'd be able to work with. So a potential thing that we may be able to do, and this is just one, a lot of you came up with some really great ideas in the comments, but one thing we may be able to do is to actually create this kind of pooling odor puzzle, depending on how, again, the perspective for these stock photos is not great. But if we be able to work this out, well, if I had a hide maybe on the window here, and then I had a fan blowing for like, let's say a half hour into this actual open closet, then I turn the fan off and remove the fan and then ran the dog, what are they going to do? Are they going to get stuck inside the closet? Or would they be able to work through that odor plume and be able to find their hide? How fun is that? And this is just one idea in a space that a lot of you were like, we should just use it as a blank space, which I think is a really good thing to think about. Having an actual blank area where there are no hide possibilities as far as where we've placed hides before. There's no odor in there is really the key of a blank area. But we don't want our dog to think that spaces that don't have stuff are always blank. We want them to really figure out where is the odor, and the odor can be anywhere. And we want to change our perspective and our outlook as well, so that we don't see this space and go, ugh, there's nothing to do here. I'll just make it blank. There are so many possibilities here. This space actually makes me really, really excited, and I don't have to add a thing. This one example, I'm adding a fan, but I don't need to for a whole lot of setups. I would use this space exactly the way that it is. So I hope this makes sense, and it can give you some ideas as far as what you can do when you're designing your own searches. And here's another possibility. We could do containers. Lovely little, what do they call these, solo cups? And we can just kind of tape these to the wall. Obviously, we want to have these at the height of our dog. You can maybe have it a little bit higher than the nose height for your dog, but this could be another really fun type of container search. We have all this wall space, let's use it. Let's have a fun little search for our dogs. So again, these are just some ideas of the things you may be able to try, not exhaustive by any stretch, but just again, to get you inspired and thinking about just how creative we can be. It doesn't all have to be the same by any stretch. So when I hear that people run out of ideas, it makes me sad. I'm like, oh no, you need to look at it a little bit differently. Set work is so exciting. There's so many possibilities. So we're going to look at another search area. Here it is. Everything that you can see is available for your search area. So take a moment, take it in, think about it. What would you be able to do in this space? And I've actually done this as an exercise over a number of years with various clients and workshops when I was still doing things in person, and this stressed people out. They were like, I don't know what to do. So now you have a moment. We have our little options. We have, there is nothing here. I have to bring in objects. Clearly, it's just grass, lady, and I give up. So A, B, and C. What are your options? What do you think you would want to do in this space? Or you just said, there's nothing here, there's nothing for me to do. Or you're like, well, I have to bring stuff in so that my dog would have something to actually search and not just pee on the tree. Or is it C, like, I've just stressed you out to no end. You're like, oh, I give up. So if you guys want to put in A, B, or C inside of the chat, that would be great. And I love this. So much fun to be had there. You are absolutely correct. But don't be afraid. You can put A, B, or C inside of the chat. Again, we're all friends here. We're just having fun, just trying to come up with a couple of ideas as far as what we can do here. Perfect. We got some B's. Perfect. Yes. And people, I love it. They're like, I will not do your A, B, or C, lady. I will just tell you what I will do. Which is fine. Totally fine. So we've got some suspended. We've got containers, something in the tree. This is a male dog's worst nightmare. I would go for a ground hide. And again, we're going to talk about that too, right? Where this may actually give people a whole lot of anxiety of just, oh my God, this is just pea heaven. It's grass with a tree. Forget it, right? But you never know. And then hide in the sunshine. Then 15 minutes later, same hide in the shade. Perfect. See, you guys are way ahead of me. So just like someone said, we're going to have a hide underneath this little tiny rock. You may not even see it. It's next to the tree. Now with this, there's a very good possibility, depending on, again, a whole bunch of different factors, but depending on how our odor is escaping from underneath the rock, or if it's a fake rock, where maybe we can have our hide inside of it, and there's little holes in the side for the odor to escape, our odor may actually rise and hit this tree, which may mean that the dog is going to sniff the tree before they work down to source. That's a good thing. It's a good thing for us to work on those kinds of things, to help our dogs understand that they can still just focus on odor. But quite honestly, a lot of marking things is the handler. We learn to. And if we have had our dog mark in a search area, it is such an aversive thing for us that we start to panic and we start interfering very quickly when we start noticing our dog sniff vertical spaces. Vertical spaces are where odor information is going to collect inside of your search area. So we shouldn't be preventing our dogs from checking these things out. We just want to set them up for success. And if we have a dog that has a tendency of marking, have this search be a little bit easier to start. Maybe really bring in some containers. Have a row of really open paired containers, as an example, running right by this tree. So they can have the visual cue, sniff here. But allow them to actually check out the tree, because there's very likely going to be odor information there, and reward them heavily when they find the hide and get them out of Dodge. And then start making it incrementally more complicated, where you have something like this. But that's why I always talk about in my training the importance of successful repetitions. It's not just for your dog, it's for you too. And it's also with how we design our searches. So if you were to take a chance, right, you're like, okay, I did the live stream thing. I want to be creative. And you jump right into the deep end of the pool and it doesn't go well. You feel like your dog isn't finding the hide. They seem to be getting frustrated. You feel really bad. That's in the back of your mind teaching you, see, being creative is bad. Right? And you're going to go back to doing the kinds of really simple, straightforward searches that you were doing before that got you bored in the first place. We just have to make certain that we're protecting ourselves too. So design things that you know that is probably going to be successful for your dog. Build up successful repetitions for yourself as well. Go step by step. And remember, we're just finding Q-tips. It'll be fine. And our dogs are really resilient too. So every single search should be a learning experience. And, that's okay. If it doesn't go perfectly fine, not the end of the world. You can always do a recovery search. But so our rock is absolutely a possibility, but then all the way in the back here, there's this little pipe thing. We can use that as our hide as well. And there were people very correctly pointing out the difference between the sun and the shade. We want to play with this as much as possible so we can actually see the difference. Having the hide, let's say as an example, maybe in this pipe to start, and then having a hide underneath the rock in another type of search, waiting a little bit in between to see what the dog does, how they actually work out the space. Because again, your dog, if you have a hide in the shade, that air is probably traveling towards the sunny area. Your dog might have to leave the shady area to actually get the odor information that they need to actually find their hide that's inside the shade. So this can be educational for us too, as far as learning how to read our dogs when they're actually working out the search areas. But you guys were so smart with all of your things. You saw right through me. And yes, this is a very good thing to point out. The handlers pull their dogs off hides like this all the time at trial, even at the high levels. And it's a good thing to think about that there's a reason for that, right? We learn whenever we're doing stuff with our dogs. One thing about scent work I think is a little bit different than a lot of other dog training is it's so focused on the dog that sometimes we forget that we are learning just the same. So every single time you run your dog, even when you're training, you are learning too. So if you were to get into a situation, let's say where you felt that your dog was going to mark and you interrupted them and you walked them away and you pulled them off of this tree and they didn't mark, you just got rewarded for doing that. And if they then found their hide that didn't happen to be by the tree, you got doubly rewarded. So in the back of your mind, you just learned a new skill. My dog looks like they're sniffing a tree. I'm going to pull them off because then they're going to be able to find their hide. That's just happening in the background of our mind. So we have to keep that in mind. And that's why it's really important to video your searches so you can see what learning are you doing in the background that you're not even aware of and whether that learning is helpful or not. Or if we need to set up other kinds of searches to really ensure that we're learning the skills that we need and that we're not kind of undercutting ourselves by learning what I like to call superstitious behaviors. We're making connections that really weren't there and we're relying on that as we're going forward. This other suggestion was actually great as well. Hides along the hard surface versus vegetation. That is perfect. You guys are so smart. And I'm not sure if you can tell in this picture, it's a little hard to tell, but that's actually brick out in the back there. So we have lots of channeling opportunities. All those little grooves and spaces in between the bricks, that could be really fun as well. Just think of if you had this whole area, think of everywhere that you can see is within your actual search area. And up towards the upper left-hand corner is your start line. So you have cones filling up this whole space. And you're like, okay, we're ready. But there was actually a threshold hide that was in one of these channeling hides for the actual brick inside the grout. What a great thing for your dog to figure out, right? Those could be challenging to start with, but it could be important for him to say, hey, yeah, there's all this stuff over here as far as the tree and the grass and all this other stuff, but there may be hides right here. So lots of things you may be able to try. You guys are doing amazing. The big thing I really want to stress with this whole live stream, and you probably have heard me say this before if you heard me do anything, is that we are doing scent work. We're not doing stuff work. And one of the biggest pitfalls that I see people fall into is that they are relying way too heavily on stuff and they're not leveraging enough the environment and what the environment is offering. You guys are actually in the comments, you're doing a great job of noticing a lot of things in the environment that don't have anything to do with stuff. So gold star, that's fantastic. That makes me so happy I can't even tell you. We want to make certain we're not running into this pitfall because we don't want our dogs just thinking, okay, I need to check the tables and the chairs and then I'm good. No, puppy, I want you to find where the odor is, and the odor can be anywhere. So really leverage the environment. And then once our dog has an understanding that our hides can be on the tables or chairs as an example, or they could also be somewhere in the environment, we then want to play with their expectations. Again, our dogs are trying to guess what the game is all about. So we're trying through hide placement to let them know your hide can be literally anywhere. This isn't table work, this isn't chair work, this isn't tree work, it's scent work. It can be in any of these places. But our dogs are brilliant. They figure out all of our patterns really quickly, and we as humans fall into patterns really easily. So this is why we want to make certain we're playing with expectations. The moment that our dog starts making assumptions, that's a cue to us. We need to set up a different type of hide. And we can do this with using both objects and environmental hides. But one of the ways that I really like to use objects in my search areas is to provide odor information, maybe not to actually place a hide on it, but to give an area for odor to potentially collect or to have the odor molecules kind of hit and then change direction. So the dog can be like, oh, this is what odor is doing. That's giving me the information I need to work my way back to source. So as an example, we're using our same exact space we just had. This is some way that we may be able to bring objects in, but I'm not placing a hide on any of these things. I'm placing it on the tree. So potentially, because the tree is in the shade and it's elevated, it's probably going to provide some odor information depending on airflow and all that good jazz, but on some of these objects. And I could be playing with expectations from the dog, making certain I haven't accidentally baked into my training. We just have to check this stuff. And if we don't find a hide on this stuff, then I guess we're done. We don't want the dog to think that. But we also want the dog to understand they can get information here, work their way back into the plume, and then find their hide. I hope that makes sense. And if you're able to really internalize that, it can open up a world of opportunities for you, where this doesn't just simply turn into, hey, I'm having a garage sale in my yard, where there's just random stuff like vomited all over the space. Those kinds of searches drive me batty. Instead, it's more of a natural looking setup. It looks like this is how this could look all the time, but it's mindfully set up in such a way with the hope that we're providing the information to the dog that they need to actually solve the hide. I hope that makes sense. And again, I say the hope because odor, we can't see it. There's lots of ways we may be able to have a better understanding of what it's doing, but the factors are probably going to change all the time, and our dogs are always the expert. So if your dog is really having a hard time figuring something out, and you know, typically speaking, that would be okay finding that hide, maybe there's just no odor availability. Pull them out of the search. What a good honey. That's really awesome possum. And then make an adjustment and run them again. All right, guys, let's take a look at this little lovely search area. You have everything that's available to you as far as what you can see. Obviously, we're probably not going to go all the way to the very far tree line. That's gigantic. It would take you an hour to get there. So basically, what is in the foreground? Why don't you guys just let me know what it is that you would think would be a good place to put a hide? And you can write anything as far as the picnic table or maybe the tree, stuff like that. So we have our A, B, and C on the picnic table, on the tree, and if I've completely flummoxed you, you're questioning everything. I hope not. I hope instead we're inspired and we're feeling all kinds of creative, and it's like, yay, this looks like fun, right? It should be. It should be fun. But it can be very stressful at first. Be like, I don't know. I don't want to be wrong. There is no wrong. It's just do. So if you guys can just humor me if you want to place an A, B, or C inside of the chat, or where it is that you think that you would be able to place a hide for this actual search area, that would be great. And again, you guys are like, I will not follow your A, B, or C. I'm going to be putting it somewhere else. I know exactly where I'm going to put it, which is fine. You guys are doing amazing. And it's actually going to really help for our replay too when they can see the comments. I'm just going to grab a quick drink of water. Very nice. Perfect. Perfect. And I also love the kinds of things you guys are saying. So like this one is a really good one. Come on, do it. So on the ground, border, grass and dirt. Perfect. And then this one, thinking about the sun hitting it for placement. Fantastic. I think that, thinking about these different types of factors are going to make such a big difference with how you design your searches. You'll see a huge difference with how your dog tackles it, but it also will open your minds as far as the possibilities. That it's not just, oh, look, there's a picnic table. There's actually a lot going on here that we'd be able to pick upon. So among the cones on the ground, interface between long grass and open areas, bark crevices. Oh, you guys are just so good. So here is one of the things that I saw, which is very similar to what you guys were saying. So we worked from left to right. No, right to left. Sorry, I'm dyslexic. So if we're going from right to left, we have exactly what you guys were saying. Basically, the path that is where it looks kind of like sand, maybe some crushed stone. We have that where it meets the grass. Those can be very interesting hide placements. Additionally, we have the shade and the sun, so we're going to have that interplay as well. And also, if you look, the grassy area over on the left-hand side is actually raised. There's kind of an incline there. It's kind of like a sloping hill. So depending on what our airflow is doing, since we're in the shade, more likely than not, our airflow is going to be going towards the actual sunny area. So it's actually going to have to kind of climb up this hill. So we may be able to play with this with where we put our start line. Maybe we want to have our start line behind the actual picnic table to again play with some of those expectations where the dog may actually get odor information on the picnic table, but the hide is actually way down here as an example. So those are things we can play with as far as being creative as well, is just changing where our start line is. That can make a really big difference, where maybe our hide is in the same darn place or pretty darn close to it, but we're just changing where our start line is. The second hide placement is just a really super high hide, but again, perspective. We're going to pretend that this picnic table is close enough that our dog would be able to come up and actually get to it by climbing up onto the picnic table. So this could also kind of classify as a problem-solving type of hide. We absolutely could do a suspended hide as well. Always think about safety, what's appropriate for your dog as well. But these, again, are just some ideas. You guys had some really great ones in the comments. You guys are way ahead of me. Absolutely playing with some of the things that are within the space, what it offers, as far as placing hides inside of the actual pine cones that are on the ground. Perfect. I love doing stuff like that. So when I was teaching at a camp, for Camp Gone to the Dogs one year, they had one of the places that they had rented for the actual camp was a hotel. And at the hotel, sometimes people would leave, cups and like little pieces of napkin and whatever else out and about in the actual field that we were searching. So I would just use that stuff and I just place my hides in them. The garbage is there anyway. I'm just going to use it to my advantage. So that kind of thing, right? Where you just have a natural space, particularly if you're practicing with friends. Maybe you guys just switch off week to week when you're practicing. Hey, I'm going to design the searches for this week, and maybe they will run blind, or maybe they run some of the hides blind and some of them are known. I love doing semi-blind searches. I think that's great. And that way you're able to really test each other as far as what your expectations are for a handler for where the hides can actually be. Because it really is all about playing with expectations on both ends of the leash. It's really important. Again, we want to make certain that our dogs are not making assumptions, that it's all about finding the odor wherever it can be. But it's also for us as far as what is actually novel. A lot of us, when we're practicing at home, as an example, we have a couple of set rooms that we practice in for any number of reasons. Could be, ease. It's where the dog is actually allowed to go, whatever the case may be. But that means there may be a much broader area of our home that our dog has never seen in the context of searching. So we may actually have some novel spaces right within our house that our dog has never seen in the context of scent work before, that we'd be able to design some really creative searches. If we can really dissect what is available at our home base, we can find lots of searching opportunities. As an example for where my rental is now, even my outside area, I have two side parts of the house. So there's the main backyard, there's the main front yard, and then there are the side areas, alleyways, whatever you want to call it. I've never used those for searching, and each of them are drastically different. One has a bunch of stone on the actual ground. I think it's like, they call it river stone or something on the actual pathway. The other one is all dirt. So I can do lots of things for those exterior searches. The fences are completely different. One fence is partial stone and wood. The other one is all paneling. So there's lots of possibilities there as far as channeling hides, ground hides, different types of substrates, and all kinds of fun stuff. But because I've never used that, that is a novel area. We have lots of wildlife here. So there's lots of critter opportunities. You probably have this available as well. Even if you live in an apartment, maybe there's a certain area on the actual apartment complex that you haven't used for searching yet. Scope it out first, make sure that it's safe, but you may not have to go like in the car and travel somewhere far away to do a field trip search per se. You may actually have these right at home. But again, thinking about expectations, changing the types of hide placements that we're doing. I'm going to encourage that you keep track of this stuff. Doesn't have to be anything crazy. Maybe just keep a little notepad. It can be notes inside of your phone. Just note, when have you worked on elevation? When have you worked on ground heights? And so on and so on and so on. Again, we fall into patterns and we want to try to avoid that as much as possible because all these skills are kind of fluid. So if we focus too much on something, other skills are going to start to fade. Or our dog may just assume everything is elevated all the time, but it's not. So they may miss the hide that's not elevated because they thought that it was going to be up. And because we see them looking up, we think it's up too when it's not. And we also want to make certain that we're manipulating our environments, our HVAC, our humidity, our heat, whatever the case may be. If Mother Nature offers you a weather event, and it's safe to do so, use it to your advantage. It should be fun. You should be like, look, it's snowing today. Even though I hate the snow, you're going to go out there and you're going to go set some searches. It's raining. How fun. We're going to go play in the puddles. All that kind of stuff. We can use it to our advantage and it can keep things fresh and new. So here's something that I kind of mean as far as what I'm talking about. Is here we just have a bathroom. These are 2 different rentals that I had over the years. And the first one we can see I have a hide in the corner behind the actual toilet, but we can move this hide so it's actually on the toilet. It is directly behind the toilet. It's underneath the toilet. It's within the actual, underneath the actual lid of the toilet. There's so many things that I can do here, right? We want to be careful. We want to make sure we're not contaminating as far as if I just cleaned with like bleach or something, don't then search with your dog. Let's be careful. But there's lots of possibilities here. And we'd be working on a lot of different stuff. Our dog trying to squeeze in here may not only be a problem solving issue as far as a puzzle that they're trying to solve, but could be tenacity. It could be their desire to really get in there. It could also be a fitness thing that if our dog is having a hard time doing that, maybe that's a cue to us. We need to work on their fitness a little bit. And then over on the right-hand side, what I'm trying to show you here is that I had just finished taking a really super hot steamy shower. And I decided to do a search immediately afterwards. And I have my hide on the outside of the shower, but it's behind the actual towel itself. So this room is really super humid, really super steamy. That's why you can see all the condensation. And it's behind the towel itself. So we have the interplay of fabric and also the difference in temperature. Because I believe when I took this, I actually had air conditioning on as well. Because why not make it super complicated? But there's lots of ways we may be able to play with this, right? I potentially could then place my hide inside the shower at the very seam of the actual glass door. I could have it anywhere within this actual bathroom. And bathrooms are interesting because you have your drains and things where your odor is probably going to be traveling into. There's all kinds of fun things with bathrooms. So you could do a lot of setups in here that could give you and your dog a lot of really good information as far as where they are with their training, could keep things fun and fresh. You can entice, maybe you have small children who don't like to get clean. Go get clean so I can train the dog, whatever. Get the whole family involved so they want to do the things you want them to do. But this is just an idea of how we can get more creative with things that we just take for granted day in and day out. We see it, we're involved with it, we interact with these things, but they can be really fun searches too. And this I'm just trying to show you that I have a hide in the very inside of my dryer. But I'm going to have this door slightly ajar. Again, my dog was not permitted inside of the laundry room because it led outside, and there's really no reason for him to be in there. So for one of these searches, I just had the laundry room door open, but I started him like way on the other side of the house, just like we did for every other search, and this was the only hide that was available. So he had to work everywhere throughout the whole house to try to find this little tiny hide. So again, this is just an example. Would I have the dryer on during the search? Not with the hide in there, but I may have it on with the hide somewhere else in the space. While there's not actually clothes and there's no chemicals or anything like that, but it's just on because that's going to be causing all other kinds of fun things as far as airflow. That could be another fun thing for us to do with our searches. And then finally, this is one of my favorite setups to do. This is where we're playing with expectations. So all these little metal tins that you're able to see that are actually visible, these are all clean. They have never been in contact with odor ever. I bought them brand new. They live inside their own odor kit that has no odor in it. And I set these out in order to test something. I want to make certain that my dog is not just targeting tins. I want to make certain they are indeed finding hides. So for this actual example, more often than not when I'm doing this, particularly if it's the first time, my hide is way far away from these things. For this photo, I'm just trying to show you so you can kind of see that our metal tins are way up here, they're super visible, but then I would have an environmental hide with my actual odor vessel is down here in the corner, and I'm going to try to find an odor vessel that blends in. It's not as obvious as these metal tins. So that's another way that you can be creative is, are you able to find something that can actually, that can actually blend into this actual baseboard? And I tell you, there are some trial officials who are amazing at this stuff. They go to Home Depot and they go ham. That's another thing you may want to think about as far as being creative, where you're combining the desire to be creative with also ensuring the dog understands the game. One final thing, I love doing this kind of setup where we can absolutely use hides to our advantage as far as using objects to our advantage. So this is just a stock photo I was able to find where a whole bunch of little patio chairs. You can use this setup a whole number of different ways. We absolutely could have our actual hides on the chairs themselves. Maybe they're under the very front lip. Maybe then we actually get to the point where they're in the middle of the seat, but underneath. So the dog really has to get underneath there in order to get to the hide. We can even make it more challenging where it's actually on the back part of the chair, back part of the seat, or even the top part. So now the dog has to problem solve, how am I going to get there, right? Or is it kind of an inaccessible hide to me? And if the dog thought that it was an inaccessible hide, maybe they're spatially sensitive, we can then grant them access by maybe moving one of the chairs out of the way. The other thing I love to do with this kind of thing is place hides, maybe not on the fence. I would prefer for this to be like a wall of a building. I'll tell you why in a second. But I'll place a hide on the actual wall, and I'll have the chair set up in this way so the dog really has to problem solve on how to get there. The reason why I would prefer to do it for a wall that's nice and solid is with fences, depending on what's happening with your airflow, you may have no availability to odor. Because if wind is coming from where the camera is towards the actual fence, then it's possible the odor is going into the next yard. And then our dog won't be able to find it. One final setup I love to do for these is you can actually cover these actual chairs with, let's say, a tablecloth or some kind of sheet, so that your dog actually has to go underneath the sheet itself to get to the hide. So not only are they trying to deal with the chairs, they now have to go underneath something. So that could be another great confidence puzzle or another kind of problem-solving thing for them to try. So just a couple of ways you may be able to be creative. Again, just scratching the surface. I really think that you guys are doing amazing inside of the comments. You guys were already spot on as far as kind of the things that I was thinking about that I wanted to touch upon today. So great job. That makes me so happy as an instructor. And so many of you are thinking about a lot of the environmental factors. But if there are other things you were thinking about as far as you need some more ideas, we've actually released a fair number of eBooks that you see listed on the page here. I'm just going to post these to the comments so you have these different links. So all of these are little eBooks that we put together that were built upon challenges that we did inside the Friends of Setwork University Facebook group. We started these during the very outset of the pandemic. We were trying to get people to not think about that and instead do fun things with their dogs. And then we started to just keep doing it over and over again with different challenges. So there's a whole bunch in these different ebooks. If you do need some more ideas as far as what to do with your pups, these can give you some ideas for that. But I'm very excited about this next part. We are starting something new with Setwork University, which I'm very excited about. I know that there are lots of people who, again, they just are so burnt out and they just don't know what else to do for their searches. Like, I need ideas. So we're starting something new. This is called our Let's Get Inspired Creative Search Areas initiative, as it were. The way this works is we've actually designed a private Facebook group that you would pay a one-time fee to have access to, and you can stay in there as long as you wish. Twice a month, we'll be posting different themes as far as the types of searches we'd be able to maybe put together, and there'll be modifications for both beginners and advanced teams as far as the types of searches, the types of hides and things that you can set inside of those searches. You can do this as often as you wish. You can participate, you can lurk, completely fine. The other great thing is that you can also request training feedback. So say that you tackled a search that met the theme and you said, oh, this went good, but I want to see how I can build off of it. Or I don't know if this went well. Can you give me feedback? You absolutely can. There's just a $25 fee for that training feedback, but you don't have to request it. Instead, we just want to build this nice little group just to get ourselves inspired, because I'm seeing a very big trend where people are just, I don't know what else to do for my searches, right? I just wish someone would give me some ideas. So that's what this is all about. So we're hoping that this would be very helpful for you guys. But as we're wrapping up, I want to see if you guys have any other questions, if there's anything else that I can help you with. And if you're enjoying these live streams, this is our second one that we've done. The first one, we were watching my little terrier do searches and see if we could read what he was doing. But let me know in the chat whether or not, you're like, oh, these are great, or this is all right. Or if there are other topics that you guys are interested in. I will tell you that one of our plans is to talk to some of our instructors, so you guys will be able to see some of those as far as interviews. But if there are other topics you guys are interested in, please feel free to let me know. If you have any questions, we can do that, because I'll be around for another couple minutes for you guys. I'm just going to grab a quick drink of water. Oh, I'm glad that you guys had a good time. Yay. Good, I'm glad that it was fun. Fabulous. I'm glad that you guys are enjoying the live streams. It is a lot of fun for me too, and I look forward to having some of our instructors on here as well. And again, as a reminder, the recording will be posted to all the different locations. So it'll be on our YouTube channel as well as our Instagram page. It'll basically be a link to the YouTube video. It'll also be inside the Facebook page for Setwork University, as well as the Friends of Setwork University Facebook group. And perfect. I'm glad that you guys liked the ideas. Again, you guys were so impressive with all of your ideas and all the things that you were observing as well. You should be very, very proud of yourselves. I'm blown away, honestly. Very, very impressed with all of you. Ah, yes. How do we find the Facebook group? So you will want to actually go to this link, and it is a $50 fee for you to join into the group. So once you pay the fee, then you will receive a link to actually join to the group to participate. So it's just a one-time fee, and you can participate for as long as you wish. And yes, I'm doing my very best to battle scammers. So only ever look at what is posted within our actual page and our actual YouTube channel. We had a couple, I think we had like 5 different scammers try to do this while we were doing the live stream itself, and I just blocked them and deleted them. It's a thing. It's technology, but we do our best. But yes, only ever follow any kind of links or anything else that we actually post ourselves. All right, guys, I want to thank you so very much for joining me today, especially on a Saturday. I really do appreciate it. Again, if you ever have any questions as far as Setwork is concerned, or if there's something that you're interested in for Setwork, we have a giant library at Setwork University. It's really huge, and it's only getting bigger. But I want to make certain that we're offering what you guys need and what you're interested in. So if there's something that you're specifically interested in and you're like, I'm not sure if you guys offer this yet, please contact me. You can always message me on Facebook, or you'll also be able to email me at diana@setworku.com. I'll actually put that email address here so you guys have it. So you can contact me that way. That way you can let me know exactly what it is that you need. If we don't have it yet, I'll circle back with our instructors in order to make that a reality for you. We have reorganized a couple of things on the site so that it may be a little bit easier for you guys to find things, because again, our library is huge. It's very, very big. But we want to make certain that we're offering what you guys need. All right, guys, I want to thank you guys so very much for joining our live stream today. I really do appreciate it. Pat yourselves on the back. I really love all the answers you guys were giving in this. This made me so happy as an instructor. Oh, I know I'm inspired. Please give a cookie to your puppies for me, and we look forward to seeing you soon.